Thanks, Sue, for coming in today. So, Sue, I mean, you've been around, like myself, for quite a while. You started off at Pacific Films in Wellington?
I did, fresh out of uni. I remember going to see John at his office for the interview, and he told me all about how you make films, and at the end of it he said, "Oh, do you want the job?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." And he said, "Can you start tomorrow?" So it was very much learn as you go, try and do everything. Had to learn how to wrap cables. I was a production assistant, so it was do everything.
Right, yes, well in those days that's what everyone did, was everything. But I mean, in Pacific we're doing like commercials and docos and, you know, the odd feature along the way. It was kind of, you know, a full-on little production hub there, really.
Yeah, at that time it was mostly, there were corporate videos and commercials and documentaries. I did have the privilege of going on probably, I think it might have been the last location trip for the Tangata Whenua series with Barry Barclay.
Right.
But I didn't do much. I didn't know what to do. It was all just learning.
Yeah, well, the same happens now, really.
Yeah.
And then, you know, bounced around doing TV commercials in Wellington, which is where I, you know, first met you. For people, Sue gave me my first ever job in the industry back in the day. Then you started on Film Magazine back in, like, when was that, 84, 85?
84.
84.
Yeah, I did 7 years production coordinating, production management, and then I was working for the New Zealand Academy of Motion Pictures. It was then the forerunner of all of our industry organisations, and my task was to go around and find out what's going on for the newsletter.
Right.
And in the course of doing that, I went to interview Graham Cowley to find out what was happening at film facilities and what's going on in his world and all that sort of stuff. And we kind of cooked up the idea that there was so much information that there should be a magazine. And the original idea of it was that it was a forum and that people in the industry, different parts of the industry, would supply me stories. Ha ha. But I very quickly learnt that aside from a couple of people, which included you, Jeff Murphy did some stories. There were people, John Barnett, people like that, did stories. But it was an impractical working model, so I had to start hiring journalists, and I had to start, even though I didn't actually know how to be an editor, I had to learn how to be an editor, and Warren Main taught me a lot of that. But I also had to talk to the journalists about what kind of stories I wanted. So I had to really, well, I knew that. I knew I didn't want, because at that time some of the stories that were coming out were like, you know, clap goes the clapperboard is how I used to describe them.
Right.
Of, you know, wow, whoopee, what a wonderful thing it is to be on set. And I didn't want those kind of stories. So I knew I wanted people talking about substantial things. It was coming to the point where we realised that it was becoming an industry rather than just a little cottagey thing.
Yeah.
And we realised that the time when you could go to the pub on a Friday night and learn what everybody's up to, that time was gone, because there were now more people and more projects and more things happening and more ideas out there. So it was kind of a way of formalising that, of getting people working in the field to talk to each other.
Right.
And to find out about, you know, what each other's doing.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I liked about it was actually a magazine put together by film people for film people. I wanted to prove to my parents that I had a real job. Look, they've even got a magazine.
That's right, and that's funny you should say that, because actually when I first told my father that I got the job working for John O'Shea at Pacific Films, the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, is that a proper job?"
Yeah, that's right. Now parents are actually paying money to send their children to film school, you know.
True.
Yeah.
True.
And all because of On Film magazine.
Well, I wouldn't claim that.
But it was a big, yeah.
Well, no, all the tertiary education areas got into thinking it was a good thing to be able to teach people how to make films, and tourism, and, you know, it was a whole wave of growth in all sorts of areas, really. I wouldn't say it was all due to the magazine.
No,
but we did. I did the magazine for 7 years,
yeah.
And met a lot of people, did a lot of networking, found out a lot of stuff. And it still is a source of pride for me. I've still got a whole bound set of every copy.
Right.
And so yeah, it's cool. And I learnt how to do a printed publication.
And that kind of obviously led you on to your next, part in the industry, which is being a publicist.
Yes, that was stepping over the divide.
Yeah.
Actually.
And working on stuff like Hercules and Xena, and that would have been a good thing. Cutting your teeth on how the Americans did it.
Yes. That was interesting. I was New Zealand media liaison, so I wasn't the overall publicist for any of those. But I worked alongside the publicist who was based in LA, and that's Leah Crancer, and she would come over here. So I learnt a lot from her, and she would also send crews from Entertainment Tonight and shows like that over, and I'd work with them finding out what they wanted and facilitating interviews and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was a big introduction in a way to the star system, although before that I worked on Shortland Street.
Right.
So I was the production based unit publicist, I guess, for Shortland Street, and there was another publicist in TVNZ who we worked kind of alongside each other, and I mean she'd send people out and I'd have to arrange interviews with the actors and things like that. And that was my first real taste of the New Zealand star system, because that was for everybody. The creation of the star system was at that time, and things like Women's Day magazine actively got on board with Shortland Street because they wanted New Zealand stars to write about, so they helped us build them up. So we never had any trouble getting a story in Women's Day, for example. And there were other publications that sprung on board as well, and TV shows that would come out and do behind the scenes of Shortland Street and all that. So my job was to facilitate those kind of things and to help the actors with that. The other thing was that the producer, Katerina Denave, had a policy of getting the actors out and about in the community in order to get viewers on side.
Because that's most likely why Shortland Street is still going strong after how many, 20 years or however long it's been going.
I think a lot of Katerina's philosophy laid a really good platform for it, yes.
Yeah, amazing. So what are some of the cool things about your job now?
Well, when I'm working with a film on set, what I really enjoy is doing the interviews for the EPK and the production notes, because on every project I'm usually, I am the first person to interview the actors and the director and the producers and the HODs about what is this film about, how did it come about, what's your role, talk about your character, all those kind of things. And I love that because I'm first, and it's still at the stage where people are formulating their ideas, but I learn a lot, and that helps me to be able to put it in a form that I can write about the film, because I have to, part of my job is coming up with the synopsis and the sort of guidelines as to how we're talking about it, and that's in conjunction obviously with the producer, but that's a part of it. Is often I'll write the first draft of a synopsis, and then it gets tweaked and added and changed and chucked out. And
you're the connection between the production and the people who are going to watch it, I suppose.
Yes, trying to reach the audience by using the media.
Yeah.
And today, of course, obviously there's a lot of social media involved, and as well as the newspapers and television, which are still really important, and radio, still really important for publicising films.
Yes, I don't think that social media is good, but a television ad is still going to reach the masses. Yes,
it is, but you need to have everything going more or less all at once. And in different formats and with different ideas driving them.
Yeah.
I have just finished working on Poye, and the Facebook page for that, which I have been managing all the way through, is just phenomenal. It's a really good example of the digital marae, where the interaction is just fantastic. People commenting, people tagging. What they mostly do is tag other people. You put up a good post, and we've got lots of good material due to Te Ara Pakahi being so creative and inventive with stuff, that people are just tagging each other into things, and it's great.
Oh,
got word
awesome.
around. And the Australians, the Australian people on Facebook created a huge wave of demand, which led Sony Australia to open the film in more cinemas than they were originally intending to.
So what advice would you give to, say, like a young producer and director who are just about to kick off their first feature film?
It's kind of pretty much the same as what the Film Commission gives, which is think about your audience, analyse your... Now it's even more important to analyse who your audience is. If you're really clear about who your audience is, then your film is going to fit that audience. And the better fit you get between your film and your audience, the more success you're going to have at the box office. But at the same time, you need to work out how to interface with the audience, and that's what publicity can do. And to do that, you need really good materials. So you do need a budget, actually, and that's an ongoing problem with publicity, is that people don't think about it early enough, and it's not included in the budget in a big enough level. And that it is good to hire experts, because you do need good video, even more good video material than they've ever needed before. Really good stills, high res, not necessarily just iPhone stuff,
Right.
but stills also shot with an eye to what's going to appeal to the audience. And it's no good just kind of getting a mate to do it. And that's a mistake.
Unless he's a photographer.
Well, exactly. Unless it's Kerry Brown.
Yes, that's right.
Who I saw that fabulous interview with him. EPK and behind the scenes video are really good. Really, really important to make a brilliant trailer. And if you can make more than one trailer, that's even better. Because you can do a big campaign around launching your trailer, and then closer to the film's release, you can put out another one.
Right.
And that boosts it, on social. And what an advantage, the people that are multi-skilled, like Taika Waititi and like Te Arapakahi, who are directors who have a vision about how to reach their audience, but also Te Arapa, I know because I've worked with him, I haven't actually worked with Taika, is actually an editor as well. And so he actually will just get there, he'll sit there and cut out clips you can use, and he'll go, oh, what about this? Let's do that. And he was the one that had the brilliant idea about going to Pack and Save and getting Pack and Save to do a Poirier commercial, which they did for their online, which was brilliant.
It all helps, I suppose there's not one single silver bullet that's going to do it. You need to actually have, the attitude of a little bit of lots of things.
Absolutely.
It creates the big event.
Yeah. The other thing is to think about events that you can create that will generate publicity or attract publicity.
Right.
And the most recent one that I've done was a Learn Poirier Day, where we went and gathered funding from various different organisations for a community event, and we put it on at the Corbin Arts Centre as part of Matariki Festival, where we brought the Pātea Māori Club up, and we publicised it all around West Auckland that Pātea Māori Club's coming to Corbin for Matariki, come along and learn poie in advance of seeing the film. And we had a really successful day. That was just a workshop, and we videoed it ourselves. Te Arapa videoed it, so he made a little clip from it, but also TV1 News came,
Right.
Fairfax. We had a lot of conventional media came through on the day. That that was actually effectively the launch of the publicity campaign, was that event. And then we had a premiere. That was another event that got more publicity, and then we also had a Hauora premiere, because we took the film back to where it came from, and that got a whole lot more. So it's thinking about events and stunts, I guess. I guess Learn Poirier was a bit of a stunt, because I was thinking about it, and I thought, my assistant Nicola and I had a brainstorm, and a brainwave came out of a brainstorm, and we realised that everybody in New Zealand thinks they know that song, but actually they can't sing it. We thought, okay, let's try and start a wave of people learning it. And we wanted all sorts of different, we went for diversity, we wanted all sorts of different nationalities and all sorts of different faces. And we got it. We got lots of people, different people came on the day.
All right, so hey, look, thanks so much for coming in, and yeah, take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
I hope so.